Hello guys, today we're playing Castlevania Chronicles. Castlevania, I don't know what the hell it was called in Japan. This was originally on the Sharp X68000. I don't know anything about the system beside Castlevania being on this. Which kind of sucks this obscure system got it, but the Dreamcast never got a Castlevania release for it. I said I'd start doing retro games. Well, I've been saying that for the last few months, and I've been continuously doing contemporary games. So I figured I'd start doing retro games, starting with this. I originally did a video of this game a long time ago when I first started my channel, and it was absolutely terrible because I filmed it with this, I believe it was a $40 camera I got from Big Lots, which is like a cheap bastard store. But I mean, $40 and it ran on 4 AAA batteries. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was made for filming outside. But I played in the arrange mode. I might eventually erase that video. There's part of me that wants to erase my videos, and there's part of me that wants to keep them up so I remember how my old videos were. So right now I'm gonna leave the arranged mode version of this up. Right now we're playing the original version. This is being played on the PlayStation 1. This came out as a Castlevania Chronicles series. Apparently there might have been more. This is actually an experiment. I don't think a lot of people bought it because this game was somewhat rare for a long time. I don't think it's worth that much money now because it's on, it's on the PlayStation Network. I think the character sprite of this game is super ugly. That one looks pretty good though. But you'll see he's pretty ugly unless I accidentally switched it to arrange mode. But arrange mode, I think Simon has red hair. This is the regular mode. Any game that stars Simon that isn't part of the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series, wow, his whip's really long. So you can see, I guess this system was capable of scaling because that tree kind of rotated instead of that ladder. This computer system kind of reminds me of the TurboGrafx 16, except with the scaling capabilities. Maybe not as powerful as a Super Nintendo. But anyways, I was saying, any game that stars Simon that isn't part of the Lords of Shadow series, and oh shit, I didn't even see that. I haven't played this game in a long time. But anyway, for the 5th or 6th time, how many times that I said it, any game that stars Simon that isn't part of the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series, which there's only a Game Boy version right now, and the ones that came out on 360 and on PlayStation 3 is a remake of Castlevania on the NES. The only game starring Simon that isn't part of the Lords of Shadow series that stars Simon that isn't a remake is Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest on the NES. And that's pretty much where Simon's story ends. That was actually a direct sequel. Ironically, I think if they ever made a Castlevania movie, that would probably make the best Castlevania movie. Just because it has the most interesting story, because after Castlevania, Simon was cursed and basically he had wounds from Dracula that were continuously rotting. And he had this dream, like a fairy or something came and talked to him and told him that if he didn't resurrect Dracula to destroy him, to break the curse, that he would die eventually from his wounds. Normally on this part, I know there's usually a pork chop where those stairs are, but this game plays a dirty trick on you where shit. I'm not used to playing this game. This game plays a dirty trick where if you try to get that non-existent pork chop, it'll open up this passage where like 1,000 fleamen will come out, which beside them Medusa heads are probably the most annoying enemy in the game. There's usually something here too. I noticed a trend with Castlevania games after Castlevania on the NES. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't played this game in a long time and I'm at an awkward angle. I'm one of those people who play games that have to be positioned exactly the same way I play video games every time, and when I record these videos I'm sitting on the floor, which has been turning out decent for, I guess, halfway decent gameplay and sound, because I have my Street Fighter arcade stick box angled up vertically, and I put my little snowball microphone on top of that and then sit Indian style and play it that way in front of a 42-inch TV that's probably about 4 feet away from me, and I'm sitting on the floor. It's about 3 feet high, like, because it's on a table. Hopefully that'll give you some idea without me having to take a picture, which I won't. Pretty much the axe in a Castlevania game is really mostly the only weapon you need. There's some occasions where the holy water is good, like the holy water makes the Medusa head in level 2 of the Castlevania on the NES ridiculously easy. But usually the axe is the best weapon. Really, the only time I've ever seen the knife actually be useful is when you fight the mummies in Castlevania for the NES. That seems like the game that uses the most strategy with the weapons. I'd say the second best thing to always have with you is the boomerang. Depending on what country you play Castlevania in and what game you play, sometimes it's a crucifix. It's supposed to be a crucifix, I think. I really hope they go back to this original Japanese storyline of Castlevania that we've been following since the 80s all the way up to, I guess the last game that come out was Aria Sara, which was really good, but probably the hardest Castlevania game beside the arcade game Haunted Castle, which is a joke. That game is so terrible, and it's an arcade game, and you get limited continues, and you gotta start from all the way from the beginning, so really it's not even worth putting new quarters in. This is definitely not one of the best Castlevanias, but it's still fun. It's weird, I was mentioning Castlevania Simon's Quest, and I've never played that one. There's a remake I'd like to play to show you guys, but I don't know how well it'll run on Fraps because it's a PC only game. It's supposed to fix the mistakes, but I don't think they fixed the villagers lying to you. And I know there's some translation issues of that game, and it was during a time where they were trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work with games, because before, like the NES and some PC games, everything was like arcade type games. So gosh dang it, those bats go down. I've been playing Castlevania 3, so I'm used to those patterns, and the length of everything is kind of different. You gotta kind of get used to it. Every Castlevania on whatever system it's on has its own rules. This game gets really hard too fast, in my opinion. If you play arranged mode, it's a lot easier, and if you play easy on arranged mode, it's way too easy, even for the hugest novice. If you have like a kid or or young company or nephew or something that sucks at video games and they want to play this game. I don't know why they would want to play a 2D game, because kids don't usually like games like this anymore, at least most of them. That would be a good mode to play on, but it's sinfully easy how much it is. It's not, it's to the point where it isn't fun. Like, you don't even have to try on that mode. But playing on this mode, the original mode, it's brutally hard. Like, there's no curve to this particular game. It's like a steep pit. This reminds me, and maybe it's supposed to emulate level 4 on Castlevania for the NES. I remember the first time I finally beat the mummies on level 4 in Castlevania. I was about 8 years old, and I think it was during summer vacation. It was probably the year 92 or 1992. I mean, it wasn't the year of 92. I died. Well, that's just because I'm not used to it. I usually can beat that part. What makes the difficulty change in these games is the amount of lives you get and how many hits like an enemy takes from you. I mean, how many hits you take from an enemy. Excuse me, I said that backwards. But I remember I finally beat the mummies in level 3 because I always wanted to see what the third level looked like, because I had one of those Nintendo's player guides that covered like a bunch of different Nintendo games, but only went up to the third world, so it never showed the fourth world, and I never could beat the mummies for a long time. Oh, my whip's kinda short. That's what she said. But she'd probably say your whip's kinda short, not the other way around. So that was a bad, that's what she says, but whatever. We're going for quantity, not quality in these videos. But I remember after you beat the third level in Castlevania, it's probably on film. I don't think the video I did of the original Castlevania on NES was too bad, even though it was an earlier video. But like, you fall down this pit and it's super random, and the level was a lot like that. And I just remember being blown away, and I'm like, Mom, I did it. Like, my mom gives a shit. Why would I tell my mom? But when you're a little kid, it's like the most important thing you could possibly do. Alright, these levels are starting to look original. The last two levels kind of look like other levels in the Castlevania games. This is kind of its own thing. Except these enemies are kind of stupid. Like a caterpillar. And I saw these giant caterpillars last summer. They are huge. And I read about them. They only mate for like one day, and once they turn into moths, and then they die. But man, they must eat a lot, because they're about the size of a damn hot dog. If one landed on me, I probably would freak out initially if I didn't know what it was. Because it was one of those caterpillars where you could see the individual hairs on it. And it was, and you could see like its little mandibles and all this shit, and it looked really creepy up close. Like, this level has the most uncreative bad guys. Like, you have things of water. Those little, I guess they're, I don't even know what the hell they are, that are holding the flea men. But they're in Castlevania, the first one on the NES, and then other Castlevanias. And the first time I ever saw them is they're on level 4 in Castlevania, part of it. It was super hard at first, and the trick is just not to freak out. And they're not too bad, because if I can talk and beat that part while doing a commentary, that shows you it's not a big deal. But these arrows are kind of a pain in the ass. Thank goodness I gotta go through a boundary. Oh, how cute, a bone gate. The music is a lot better in the range mode. I really don't like the color scheme of this part of the game. This game has a really muddy color scheme. It's kind of bleak and depressing, and maybe that's where you want to go for Castlevania. And Super Castlevania 4 is a way better looking game than the Sega Genesis, I guess, in some aspects. But aesthetically, I think it looks so much better, and that's like a pretty vibrantly colored Castlevania game. Oh wow, I'm really messed things up now. I don't think I'll be able to beat this level, but you don't want a too long video anyway. Usually I can get somewhat far. I can't beat the game on original mode, nor did I put much effort into trying, but I imagine it would take some time if I even got good enough to do it. This game is like 3 systems combined. It like has Turbo Graphics, 16 graphics, the Super Nintendo's Mode 7, and Sega Genesis sound effects. I forgot how to get down there. There's something stupid. Oh yeah, you can whip down. Apparently whipping straight down in no other directions an innovation. I never understood why after Super Castlevania 4 you could no longer whip in any direction. I guess they felt like that made it too easy. I don't know. But in my opinion, shit. You know, that's so stupid. The way I just died there. Not because I jumped, but the way he was hovering dead in the air, and you could tell that I just got out of that in the way of time, but it was too close to the spikes. So I guess I hit like some collision box. Maybe it was worse than I thought it was, but it certainly seemed like I got out of the way in time. Come on, go up. Shit. It's really not a difficult part. You just have to get the hang of where it is. Like I said, I've been rusty. Playing all these new games too. I have some newer games I'd like to show you, but again, I promised I'd do some retro games. And I really needed to. I kind of felt like playing them. I just beat Metro 2033, so I figured I'd show you that. Like, that's stupid. I didn't hit the spikes. Anyway, I'm gonna stop here. It's Castlevania Chronicles. You can get it on the PlayStation 1. It's also available on the PlayStation Network store. I remember when this first came out, it was $10. It's probably the best value I've ever gotten for a brand new game that cost $10. When it first came out, it was $10. Mind blown, I know, but it had like a photocopied instruction booklet. The production values on the actual packaging were pretty low, but I mean, it was still cool that we got to play another Castlevania game. Although we all really wanted Dracula X Rondo of Blood, which didn't come out to the PSP, which I think was cool for the PSP, but kind of shitty to mostly everybody else. Like, they should have brought it out to the PlayStation 2, maybe at least later, kind of like what they did with the Grand Theft Auto games. If you have to play a newer Castlevania game that's 2D, This is okay. It's cheap. It's affordable, but definitely if you have a choice, if you want to play an older Castlevania game, it's good. Definitely go with the first Castlevania on NES, Castlevania 3. And Castlevania Bloodline and Super Castlevania 4 are probably the best traditional 2D Castlevania games. And then if you want the Metroidvania, Castlevania Symphony of the Night's the best one. And then Area of Sorrow, I think the last one that came out was Order of Iglesia, but I called it Area of Sorrow before, but Area of Sorrow isn't that hard. But the Order of Iglesia, or however the hell you say it, where you play as that girl that's not really a vampire hunter or Belmont or whatever, that one's super hard but really good. Like pretty much any Castlevania game on the Game Boy Advance, except maybe Circle of the Moon, I didn't care for that one, or the DS are a way to go. But for a traditional Castlevania, any Castlevania game on the 8-bit, 16-bit systems are good. Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest is pretty much impossible without a strategy guide, but that's fun, but you have to have a strategy guide. But I'm rambling on a blank screen that just says game over, continue, save, and end, so I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys for watching very much, and I hope you enjoy it. The next few videos will hopefully be retro games, so I hope you don't mind, because I know I've been doing contemporary games, which has been gaining its own little crowd, so sorry if you've been alienated, but I have a backlog, quite a few games. And again, I have some games I'd like to cover, maybe Metro 2033 and Last Light later on, and maybe Need for Speed. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there. I don't need to be relaying this information on this video because I'm just making it super long and probably boring for you. Thank you guys for watching and take care. Bye.